Good morning,
Good morning.
Good morning.
and I want to thank Kim for allowing me to be a part of this program this morning. And I have Preston Sturdivant. He's our 4-H agent in Anderson County. He's running the machine over here. I call him my machine man. Uh, and I'm the county extension agent for agriculture and natural resources in Anderson County. And I have two of my lovely master gardeners, a master gardener and an intern here today, Miss Brenna and Miss Pat. Thank y'all for driving over. Today we're going to talk about grafting apple trees, and we'll try to demonstrate that. And we'll talk a little bit about pecan grafting as well. Why do we graft? We graft for different reasons, but the main reason is that we have a variety that we want to change over to a different variety. Perhaps an apple that you purchase and you eat it and you really like that apple. And so you try to find some graft wood for that apple that you can put on the apple that you have. And so that's one of the reasons. Is that the gentleman there? Okay. So that's one of the reasons we graft. There's several different methods of grafting. We can also chip patch, bud patch. Both of those are really simple to do, easy to do. They really take most of the time. And then when we talk about grafting, we have the cleft graft. We have the tongue and whip graft. We have the bark graft. And there's a little difference in the bark graft of fruit trees, the method that we use, compared to the method that we use for pecans. We call Texas inlay bark graft, and we'll demonstrate that today. I really hate to whack on these two big trees because I like the shape that they have. That's really nice. Um, but we'll make a decision here in a few minutes as to which one. How many? Just one graft on each one? Is that kind of what you wanted to do?
Um, However you need to do it, I was hoping we'd leave out of here with at least 6 trees.
Okay.
So,
So
Three
I
and one
think-
apple.
Yeah, so
The
I
goal.
think the
Sorry, I've got to
purpose,
shut up.
okay, the purpose was to have each tree reflect all 3 varieties.
Okay.
So theoretically, 3 grafts per tree.
Okay.
The Granny Smiths, I don't know that we can, I don't know how you want to look at that, but
Is
I
this the
think-
Granny Smiths? The
the
green?
little ones are Granny Smith. But
Okay.
so that was the intended purpose, was that each tree would carry all 3 varieties. They're kind of space. They're looking for space saving solutions
Okay.
in their.
yes,
Oh.
unfortunately, it's about the size of this room.
Okay. On the Granny Smiths, I'm not sure that we can put 3. I wouldn't want to go down much smaller than that. We probably could put one on here, but this is too small and that's too small. Okay, and basically the same thing over there. Okay, you got plenty to work with here, so we can do that. And as I was saying, different reasons to graft. I like to recommend, if you are thinking about grafting, I think it's important that you're ahead to plan for that grafting procedure, especially on established trees. Okay, and so what are we talking about? Well, what we're talking about is making sure that we do maintenance on those trees, make sure that they're well tended to, water, fungicide, insecticide, if there's issues there. We want that tree in the best possible management scheme that we can have it in order that when we put those grafts on, those grafts will take off. Okay, the better health that tree is in, the better your graft is going to perform. Okay, and so what we do, we collect our graft wood both for pecans and for fruit trees. We do that during the dormant season. Generally, February and early to mid-March is when we want to go out and collect that graft wood. Okay? Once we collect the graft wood, and I like graft wood this size, a little bit bigger than this, down to about this size. Okay? So we're going to go out and we're going to collect that wood. I like to cut my sticks, my sign wood or graft wood, I like to cut them about like this. I guess that's probably about 8 inches. Okay? A lot of the commercial people will cut them 10 to 12 inches. The trick is you want 3 to 4 buds on there. And when you graft, you want to make sure that you've got at least 2 buds. Okay? And so I'm going to cut this right here. And so that's 2. I like to bundle my graft wood in bundles of 5. Okay? And so we're going to do a lot of imagining in here today. You collect your graft wood. As soon as you collect it, you get to your processing place. My processing place 2 years ago, Kim, it was in the kitchen, right?
Mm-hmm. It was.
And so you go to the kitchen, go to the garage or your shop or whatever. You take your 5 sticks of wood, you place it in a paper towel, and you roll it. You dip it in the water. The water's a little... Okay, and then you squeeze the excess water out. Okay? Once you've done that, I guess it's over here. And that's not going to work either, but you'll need a quart-sized bag. You put your wood in the bag. You put this in the crisper of your refrigerator. Okay? And so then we're going to wait. Well, the next step, once you've done that, make sure you label the variety. Write it on the bag. Just know what varieties you're dealing with. Okay? So we do that. Okay, I'm going to show you a different step on preparing the wood. I'm going to cut this to fit that bag. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to put this wood in the bag. We're going to take a paper towel, just a little. We're going to put this in there, and then we're going to seal this off. A lot of the fruit grafters use this method. Pecan grafters use this method.
What, now I say that again, do what now?
Pecan grafters generally use this method of preparation or storage. Fruit growers generally use this one. Now what's going to be important, we're collecting this wood in February to mid-March. We're not going to be able to graft until sometime in April. We have to wait until the wood slips. You know what I mean when I say the wood slips? That means that when this cambium, when this cover will pull away from the cambium easily, that's when we start to graft. Okay? So those are the 2 methods that we generally use to store that graft wood that we've collected. Now, if you want to go the easy route, you can purchase graft wood from some of the finer nurseries. I think Walmux and De Leon will do fruit graft wood. They also do pecan graft wood. Texas Pecan Nursery in Chandler will do pecan graft wood. I'm not sure if they do fruit grafts or not. I don't think they do, but they could. And I'm not sure about these nurseries over in Tyler either. I don't believe they do.
I don't believe that they do.
Yeah.
Texas Pecan Nursery, I think, is
one of the big nurseries, I guess it's in the southeast, Tai. You can get anything you want from them.
What's it called?
Tai, Tyty.
Okay.
Tai
Where is
Nursery.
it?
I think it's in the north, in the southeast, but I'm not sure what state.
Okay. Southeast is in Mississippi, Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Somewhere up in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we've got our wood, we've got it collected, we've got it in our refrigerator, and now it's a time thing. We're just waiting on that time that we can get ready and graft. So now we're around April 10th, April 15th. We go out and we check the wood, check the trees to see if the wood is slipping. It is slipping. So then we go back and we plan the days that we're going to try to graft. We take our wood out of the refrigerator. We put our wood in a cooler, ice chest. Ice it down. We don't want this wood to get warm, okay? And so every time you take a stick out, you put it back, put the bag back in, and make sure you close that top, okay? That's really important. And I just realized I only do this once a year, or 3 or 4 or 5 times a year, but just during the grafting season. What I forgot to show you, this is paraffin. You can use beeswax. This is a skillet. You put this in there, you cook this, you melt it. Once you've cut that wood, and as soon as you get home, you take your wood, you cut it up into the sizes you want. Once you get this melted, you dip each end. That's to seal off and keep moisture in the stick. Okay. Then you do your wrapping and your moisture and your bagging.
So this has already been cut.
Yeah.
It's in your hand. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So these are some of the tools that we need.
As far as that goes, once you make your cutting, get your graft wood, what time limit you within the hour?
The sooner the better, but yeah, you got an hour, couple of hours.
Okay.
Yeah. My trainer or agent, the guy that trained me, he and one of the big producers over in Anderson County years ago, we used to go out and we would cut enough grafts, like 300 or 400 grafts, and it would take us a while to work all that up.
Sure.
It's a process. There was 3 of us, and each one of us had a job, and it would take a couple of 3 hours to get that done. But anyway, make sure you dip them, wrap them, squeeze out the excess moisture, bag them, label them, crisper of the refrigerator, and I collected wood, I guess about 3 years ago. Had some really beautiful pecan wood. It was Pawnee. And I wanted to put that Pawnee on some of the trees that I have. Lo and behold, April rolls around. I'm getting ready, getting excited, I go to the crisper. I can't find my dadgum wood. So I go to my wife. I said, Deborah, I had some pecan graft wood in the bottom of the crisper. Oh no! She threw my wood away. So, but we're still married, but I can put wood in there now. She don't mess with it. I give her a tongue lashing. So, don't, when you see it, don't grab it and throw it away. You want to hold on to it. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this pecan grafting first. We have what we call the banana 4th lap, and I'm going to try to demonstrate how that graft is done. We're going to make this our tree. We're going to make this the graft wood. Okay? Now, one of the things you have to make sure you do, when you take this graft wood out of that bag and you get ready to go graft, when you take your graft wood, you gotta make sure your buds are pointed up. If they go down, she isn't gonna live. Okay? So it's gotta be up. All right, so this is the tree. And this is called the banana four flap or the banana graft or the four flap graft. You got to have a sharp knife. I'm not really good on putting the edge on, so I keep this with me. And so what you're going to do, now this is in the ground, and so you're going to take your knife and you're going to cut 4 marks. You're going to try to make you a flap, like peeling a banana. Sorry.
So that's why you need that outer layer to be able to peel off.
Yeah.
You're doing that.
Okay, now I can see. Okay, there's 1, 2.
Feels right off.
That's because the wood is slipping. A month ago, 3 weeks ago, you would have had the heck peeling this. Didn't cut that one good. Okay, once you do that, you got to slip in here and try not to cut your flaps. Ah. Okay. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here. This is the graft wood, and we're going to do this right here.
You don't take it all off. Just
Right. What we want is contact cambium layer to this bark. And so we go in here like this. I'm going to shorten it just a little bit. The other thing is you want to make sure that you're sharp.
you want to borrow mine?
Yeah.
Very sharp.
And by the way, field coal is the very best hand clippers. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're good. Okay, so if I can find my, there it is. Okay, so we go in, we put that on there. You cover that like so. Got to have a rubber band. The rubber band serves as your third hand. I like the small rubber band. You can use that next size, but this works pretty good. And ideally, you put this on before you put your graft on your stock wood, okay?
And slide it up too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's just do that. Last year's rubber bands. Okay, so here we go. And what we want to do is try to roll that up. and try to make sure that you're covering the exposed areas there. A little bit more difficult to do when you got to hold it. That's what it looks like. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some aluminum foil. We're going to use this aluminum foil as a reflector sign. I'm wrong. We're going to use this. I use flagging tape. You can use, we call it grafting tape. I've seen people use Teflon, plumber's tape, anything that stretches. Okay? And so you want to start here, down below the graft just a little bit. And you want to
I can see how plumber's tape would work good with that. Come out the spool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I just try to do a little half hitch here.
And what is the purpose of the tape?
That's to make sure you bind the cambium layer to the bark. Okay. And then you want to cut that off, and then we're going to wrap it. Okay, trying to keep that graft cool, a little bit cooler. So we do that. Then we take a plastic bag. And I usually use quart bags. This is a sandwich bag. You cut one corner out. And you do that number right there. You try to get all the air out of the bag, and then you wrap it. And then you tie it off at the top. And you tie it off at the bottom.
This is to retain moisture in there.
You're making a greenhouse effect. Exactly. And you want to make sure you cut these flaps off, because if you don't, birds will be attracted, and once you leaf out, they'll want to perch on your graft. And so it's important to cut those off. Okay. About 2 weeks, 3 weeks. About 2 weeks you should be swelling. Your buds should be swelling, and then it should leaf on out. Okay? All right, so that's the banana four flap, or the Texas, or the four flap graft. Okay, so I'm going to see. This is hickory. I didn't have any pecan wood that I could get to. My trees are limbed up pretty high. but I'm going to try to do it with this piece of hickory. And so you always, when you're doing a Texas inlay bark graft, you always want to put that graft on the southwest. Anybody know why? Side.
We're in the northern hemisphere.
Our prevailing winds come out of the southwest. We want to blow that graft into the tree or the trunk that you're grafting to. If we put it on this side, blow it right out. Okay? And so it's really important. Okay, so now this is a tree, just like this, just bigger in diameter. Okay? I'm going to say that this tree is this size up here, somewhere up here. Okay? I want to leave some of these. And the reason I want to leave some of those is because they have leaves, and the leaves will help to feed my graft. Okay? So we're going to whack it off right here. And then we're going to try to make 2 marks. But first, let me get me some graft wood. Where'd you get these?
There's a place in Tyler on 155 called Skag.
Mm-hmm.
They do
Outdoor equipment.
Yeah.
That will be in contact with this. And now we'll try to put this in here. A lot of times you'll have to take your hammer or your knife and tap it in there. Okay, this shouldn't have come loose, but this wood is not slipping here.
Right.
And so it makes it a lot more difficult. But anyway, you want to make sure that everything is covered. And once you do that, you can take a staple gun and you can staple, or you can use nails. I generally use those brad nails, and I put one about here and one down here at the bottom. And once you've done that, then you go back to your tape and you want to make sure you pull it tight.
The more contact, the better.
Yes. And what we're trying to do is bind it to that cambium layer there.
Okay.
That should have been tied off. I broke my tape.
Sure.
See if I can do it. Okay, so we got that. Take our foil. Okay, so we got that on. Then we take a bag, and again we want to cut the corner. Actually, we don't have to cut the corner. Yeah, we do. Okay. Okay, we're going to tie the bottom. And then we're going to tie the top off. Okay. We take these flaps off again because we don't want the birds messing around. We nipped the top. Remember, it has paraffin on it. Okay? We nip that. This is Elmer's wood glue. We take it and we just dot it. To seal it off. Okay? You can use orange shellac. You can use wax. The problem with wax, you're out in a field or in the yard, and you have no way of heating it. It has to be heated. Okay? And so that works really well using wood glue. And that's it. Again,
Now, on your fruit one, you didn't put glue on the end of it. Should you do it on the fruit also, or just strictly on the...
no, you do it on your fruit as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of the grafters don't use any. They cover everything. They cover the buds. They cover the top of the graft as well. And the buds come through. The plastic.
So you said the top part, and do you do the other part, the other end also?
No.
No, just the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Graft the teeth.
So that's pecan grafting. Grafting is somewhat of a lost art, but we just don't have very many people left that graft. Back when I was a young man, there was quite a few grafters. Of course, they were in their 60s, 50s and 60s, and of course now they're in their 80s or above, and they don't do any grafting. In fact, most of them that I knew are gone now. And I've tried my best down through the years to go into the schools, into the ag classes, and try to train kids because they're make a little money grafting. A&M sometime will send some of their horticulture kids out to graft for people, and they can make a lot of money for a weekend grafting. And I used to graft a lot for people, but now I'm getting to the age where I don't want to climb up in a tree. I don't mind grafting on the ground, but I don't want to get up in no tree and hopping around and going on.
Explain to me, you're talking about getting up in the tree and all, why would you graft?
You graft to change over the variety. To change the variety.
To change the variety,
Mhm.
just like we're trying to do with the apple.
Mhm.
Okay.
Same thing. When I first got in extension back in 1984, were you here? I always pick on her. In 1984, we worked with Thurman Gibson. Thurman Gibson had a 100-acre pecan orchard there in Palestine. His in-laws started that orchard in the early 1900s. And there must have been 25 or 30 different varieties in there. And they were all outdated. I mean, there were issues with disease, there was issues with insects, there was issues with growth habit, everything. And so we went in and we changed about 60% of that orchard over to newer varieties, to Indian varieties. And we did it by grafts. We'd go in and whack those limbs off and put new grafts on. A limb this big, you might put 2 or 3 grafts on. You know,
Because you always want the graft wood to be small, but what you're grafting to,
not more than 1 inch.
right. But what you're grafting to can be
Any
pretty
size.
big.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can graft to a stump.
Right.
Yeah.
It might look kind of funny, but
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So, any questions on pecans before we move on to
I
pears?
do. I have one that is a volunteer
Uh-huh.
come up, and it's about the size of the Granny Smith down here, and it's just starting to leaf out.
Mhm.
I want to graft it. Do I need to wait until it gets bigger?
No.
Or go ahead and
Go ahead.
graft it?
Go ahead and
now?
graft it.
How far down should I cut it to the ground?
Is there anything down here?
Yeah, it's that size, and the leaves on the top are just like that there.
Okay. Do you have any leaves down
There's
here?
no limbs or leaves or anything below that.
Okay.
It's
Do you-
just strictly the stem, the trunk,
Okay.
and it has just a handful, like at the top of that one there.
I would try to leave 2 or 3 limbs and get up above that and whack the rest of them out.
So just look to see if there's some bulbs.
Yeah.
Because that would be the only thing it would
Yeah.
do now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would do if it's this size, I'd do the 4 flap.
Okay. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
the same size and everything as that one there.
Yeah, that's what I would do. 4
Now,
flap.
if I've got some pecan trees that have never produced, but they are big, can I take, I don't know what they haven't produced anything.
Mhm.
So should I take off of something that I know is already producing, or does it really matter if I take something off of them? Because they would still be young enough that even, waiting until February or March next year,
Okay.
that I could take a graft off of them that would match up to this size here.
You can do that, but let me ask you a question. The trees that you have that you're speaking of,
Mhm.
are those purchased trees or variety seedlings?
They're seedlings.
Okay. All right.
Now, the I guess would be the parents or whatever in my parents' yard. They've been there for years.
Okay.
And they have the long, thin shell ones as well as the short, fat ones.
Mhm.
I don't know what variety they are, but that's just where, and they do produce. And these here are some that my dad had taken and planted in the orchard area, but they haven't never produced, and I couldn't even honestly tell you how many years they've been there.
Mhm.
But they're not like tremendous big. They're still fairly young.
Okay.
But they just never produced anything, so I don't know what they would produce.
Okay. You can certainly go in there and put on grafts. It will probably be 2 years before you get pecans.
Mhm.
One time in my life, I put on a graft in the spring and had pecans in the fall. Generally, that does not happen.
Right. Now, when I cut the top of my little one like that, can I take the top of it and graft back to the bigger ones that are out in the pasture that are several years older?
Yeah.
Okay. I just hate to waste the whole part of it.
Yeah. But what's going to be the advantage to doing that if
I
it's a
don't know.
seedling too?
You tell me. Well, I don't know. Just maybe they're a different variety.
Yeah.
Would that
Could have
be-
different parents.
I mean, I don't know.
Anytime you have a variety seedling, we have native pecans, we have variety seedlings, and we have improved pecans. Improved pecans are those that have identified parents, and the genetics have been improved. Variety seedling is never going to come true to its parents. It will have some of the same characteristics of its parents, but generally it's going to be a little bit smaller. The markings may be a little bit different. The quality may not be quite what you would expect, but I have a variety seedling in my lawn. Squirrel planted it, and it's a pretty dadgum good pecan. It's pretty good in size, and the quality is good. The texture, the color, all of that's really good in it. And so, you could take the top out of that one and take some of that graft wood and put on the others and see what you come up with.
Well, even since they have two varieties, because I know the one that I have in my yard is going to come from theirs because it comes from leaf compost and it just planted itself. Mm-hmm. And so, but they have the two varieties in their yard, so there still might be, a difference on them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my question is, like, we're doing this apples to apples and that sort of thing, but could you take a cutting from a pecan and put it into a different pot, like a hickory or an oak?
Yeah, you can do hickory to pecan or pecan to hickory.
Really?
Yeah.
So then,
that's interesting.
We have lots of hickory trees.
Yeah,
It's
you can
just
do
in
that.
the same family, right?
Yeah.
And it still will produce.
Mm-hmm. You can't do
that particular branch. What grows out of that would be pecan,
right.
but not the whole hickory tree.
You can't do pecan to walnut. That won't work.
Okay.
I just got excited.
But if
we have a volunteer walnut too. When you said that, I thought, oh wow.
I had a gentleman that bought a farm in Freestone County. He lived in Houston, and he eventually moved up there. And when he did, he had a big bottom, like 200-acre bottom, loaded with native pecans. And we went in, and some of them were variety seedlings, but we went in and they were like this. They were bigger than this, tall as the ceiling here. We went in and we just cut the tops out of them and grafted them. And once the tops took off, we came back and we took everything that was there originally, we took that off. And so we changed that whole tree over. So, yes, ma'am.
How long does it take for the grafted part to start producing fruit?
Generally 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. The key is maintenance of the tree once you've grafted, making sure that it gets water and nutrients. That's going to be one of the things that's really going to help that tree to come on, that graft to come on and do a good job. Okay. I didn't say it, but that's important. This is important. You got to have a saw. I like this little saw. I've got a bigger saw, but I really like this saw here. You need a rock. You need this. You need a small hammer, paper towel, functioning rubber bands, and you need something to wrap with, and foil paper and bags. Yes. Okay. Those are things that we need to graft with. Okay, so now let's look at these apples. So, I would say I'd come in here. I'm not very tall, and so I got to have it to where I can work on it. Okay? Now, if I had a step ladder, I would go up here. But I'm probably going to whack right in here, here, and here. And that way, I can actually do what I need to do. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is a cleft graft. Some good graft wood.
Just hang on to it. Just sit to the side.
Okay, let's see. We're going to put one of each on it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Which actually should only have to do 2 grafts on it because the tree itself is 1, right?
Mhm.
And then you put the other 2, the Granny Smith, and because there's 3 varieties, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So it should only have to do 2 grafts then,
You hear that, ma'am?
right?
Did you hear that, ma'am?
I did. Just getting confirmation. Now, on the pecan trees, you said you take your graft wood in February and March. Does it matter on the,
Same time.
okay, so with us doing it now, it's not gonna make a difference because we hadn't put it in the ice
It's
box?
probably, it may take, but probably won't.
So it's a maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay,
But we can, but with having the varieties, understanding that you can then graft in the winter, you know, you can take graft wood this winter
you can
and
do it again.
do it again.
Okay.
in the s-
These may not be, but graft again.
Yeah, if they don't.
Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm going to take this bud off, and we'll do a bud patch as well. And what I did is I rolled it on both sides. And now what I'm going to try to do is come down on both sides. Okay. And now I'm going to try to lift this out.
Tim, are any of these varieties a good pot variety if you wanted to keep it in a container versus in the ground? Or would you still better off with the dwarfs on those?
So, because apple trees are naturally so large, it's better looking at dwarf, like if you were doing dwarf rootstock, is where you go with that. These guys are happier naturally in a, you know, planted in ground. There are varieties. If you have, it'll grow to the size of the pot you put it in.
Okay.
So in theory, you could put these in a container. But
Put that there.
are really small.
That's kind of what it looks like once you take it out. Okay.
Normally, you would be doing that on dormant wood. Though.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is it going to come off like that on dormant wood, or is it going to be all kind of chewed up?
No,
It's not slipping.
it'll come out.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll come out.
Now, the purpose for removing the bud?
To do a bud patch. To do a bud patch. I'll show you here in a moment. Okay, so we're going to do this cleft graft. And what we're going to try to do here is a wedge.
That little tool I gave you,
Mm-hmm.
it makes them just like that.
Really?
It cuts one end that it's got the V,
Mm-hmm.
and the other side of it, it cuts into the stick part of it.
Sure. Okay. So now what I'm going to try to do is come in here and split this.
Nothing more dangerous than a dull night.
Yeah. And you always want to hold your finger up here. You'll have a little bit more control of that knife. And let's see if I can wedge them in here.
Because it does that, and that's exactly what it makes.
Your preferred method for marking that limb for variety? What's your preferred method for, like, you know, when you graft a new kind to an established tree? How do you mark what variety you grafted to it?
Especially doing variety, more than one. If you do one, it'd be easy to
Yeah, I like to put a little tag. You know, the little metal tags that you can purchase.
Different colored tape.
Yeah, that would work. Those tags work really well.
A little bread tag.
Yeah, you could do it color coordinated. This is the easiest, in my opinion, graft that we can do on fruit trees.
When is the best time of the year to do that particular kind of method?
Right now,
Right now.
through early summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the only downfall is we hadn't took our wood and put it in the ice box and all that.
Right.
Those times.
Okay.
Which
Right.
makes it easier to do those cuts and stuff. Is that what that does? Taking the bark off.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what that does?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, that's the only reason that you would be gathering your graft wood.
And when you think about plant hormones and how they direct what's going on with the cutting, when you're using dormant cuttings, everything's quiet, they're not doing anything, and then you stick them in the graft and they wake up going, okay, we know what to do. But right now they're actively growing, they've got other plants, you know what I'm saying, they're active, and so that's why not doing dormant wood doesn't always work. And it might not. But if you're using dormant wood,
You rascal.
that works. But when you're using actively growing wood,
You might have a 50% chance, or
It ought to be higher than
this
that.
method would work, but the other one, you've got a much higher percentage of it work.
Okay, then my next question is, when we get these home, you always taught, you got, $30 tree, we're gonna $15 off, so we're gonna leave it completely alone. We're not gonna cut
I
anything.
mean, that's a good question for Truman, is what part of it that's not grafted do you then cut after? And that might be a question
For pruning purposes.
Okay, so
Well, Kim always taught us in class, when you buy a tree,
Mhm.
and you get it in the ground and all, you got a $30 tree that you bought, you're gonna cut $15 of it off,
Mhm.
so that it can go into the roots. And that's what my question is this. Okay, we have these grafts on here. Do we cut any of the other limbs down?
Yes,
Like a pruning?
you
Okay.
do. You would tip prune. If we tip prune these, it's going to force all the growth to go here.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's so funny.
The more you cut these, the growth's going to come back here. But if you tip prune, it'll go here.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so that's your cleft graft. Okay, so now let's see if we can do a bark graft.
And so I know why you're going to do that. The normal procedure for that cleft graft would also be to do the plastic bag and all
Yes,
those
it would
things.
be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd put the plastic bag.
Right.
Now, some of them will put the plastic bag and the foil. Others will just put foil on it.
Okay.
Okay? But yeah, I definitely do the foil. Okay, so now let's go in here and see if we can do the bark graft. I got it.
$34.95 fall on the floor.
Those cuttings they should do from the rootstock.
That dull joker.
You want at least an inch or two. You want
Ma'am?
the part that's remaining that you're gonna stick into the other tree. You want it
About an
to be
inch.
long.
An inch, 3/4 of an inch, half inch, anywhere in that neighborhood.
Okay, so which one did you cut that one off of?
The one,
That one
Right there,
is
that
cut
is
off
a-
there, so
Fuji?
it would be going to
No, that's
Yeah.
okay.
So it is on a different one he pulled off of. Right, you pulled off the same one, didn't you?
I pull this from here and it's going over here.
Okay.
Oh, okay, you're going over to that one.
So it's different.
Oh, I see, okay. Trying to keep up with where we're going.
Okay. So, it's going to be close.
okay, the size of grafted wood
Mm-hmm.
should be
Close.
close, okay. Smaller or bigger, which is worse, smaller or bigger?
You can have smaller graft wood to go on your base.
Okay.
Okay.
Larger is not gonna work as well, I guess, okay. Gotcha.
Okay, so let's see if we can put this graft in. And what we're doing here is we're going to pull one side of this open and try to slide this in it. Okay? I'm fogging up so bad.
Hold that tree still.
I think I got it, maybe.
Concentration.
Oh, that rascal broke on me.
Is the stock too small?
I don't think so.
Now, wouldn't those trees already be grafted?
Okay.
Made it.
Got it.
Wouldn't they already be grafted? If I could make the
snug fit.
Yeah.
So what's the advantage of that one? It seems a lot harder.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think sometimes they choose the grafting method according to the size of the wood that they have and how well the size of the wood that they have worked for what they're grafting
bigger, then
onto.
that might be better.
Right. So that's when you look at what and when the bud graft that he's talking about, if you only have a little tiny bit of sign wood, that's when you're going to start doing bud grafts where you can get as much graft as possible out of your graft wood.
Now, on these that she just purchased, wouldn't these already be grafted trees?
Yes, they are grafted.
Yes, they are grafted.
If you look at the bottom, you'll see what we call a dog leg. That's where the graft is.
Okay. So what is the difference of grafting up at the top like you are now versus going to the bottom when they graft that?
The difference is that anything below this graft is the variety that she purchased. Anything above it will be what we put on it. Okay?
And if you graft it down at the bottom,
It's all going to be what we put on it.
So if you go down to the bottom where your trunk is going to be larger, and like she's wanting to do 3 different varieties on one, can you cut the trunk and put 3 different off of the trunk part of it? I don't guess it
In
would work.
theory, you could, but you stand a chance of losing a lot of your desired. If you were going to do that, where you just take the whole trunk, you would use, root stock and cut the root. If you're growing out root stock and cut the root stock off, and then do desirable varieties on that. But if you already have a purchased tree that this whole tree is viable in and of itself and is grafted onto rootstock, you really don't want to cut that much of your $34.95 off.
Right.
Yeah, but you could definitely do that.
But you never want to graft anything more than an inch.
No. Well, when you cut your wood,
In diameter.
right, in diameter.
Okay.
Yeah. Your graft wood should not be over 1 inch in diameter.
so like,
Okay, so we've got it on there. You want to cover anything that is exposed here on the top with this or orange shellac or wax or something.
but you don't do the very top. Oh, fix it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, actually, I'm fine.
Okay. And what we'll do is fall. And according to some of the guys I watched and have talked to, on a fruit tree, the bag is optional. If it makes you feel better, put it on there.
Okay,
So you don't
when you
have
put
to.
the foil on, you're putting the shiny side inside, so it can absorb the heat.
Well, actually, no. I want it to reflect the heat.
Oh, you want to reflect?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the shiny part should be out. Yeah. Okay, so that's the second one. The third one, let's see. We'll try to do a tongue and whip. We got one on this one.
It's going to be confusing.
Okay, we've got a green one over there. Okay. This is a what?
Those are
Gala.
Gala.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's pretty straight wood. Gala. And this is, where did I get this one?
I think this one way down here is a Gala. Down here.
Okay, y'all help me keep it straight.
Yes, sir.
That's what I was.
The one you just, right here in front of you is your first cut.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay.
You
So
cut
this-
that off,
So,
and then that is the one on the right to me is a
That
Gala.
was that one.
Yeah.
Right.
okay, so it goes on this one.
I think. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. See if I can make this tongue. This joker isn't wanting to slip.
So. This happens in the field, that's exactly what you do. Chop it off
Yeah,
all over.
you just keep going. See my deal there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cut one here and try to place this inside that one that looks just like that.
So since these are all so small, if we just do 2 to each tree instead of making it a 3-in-1, but as it grows, we can come back and do the grafting later on to get the 3-in-1.
Sure.
I would think, yeah, if you put them in the ground and wait a year, that would work really well. You take 1 or 2 and then you swap grass.
Okay, see what I'm going to try to do? I'm going to try to slide that inside that one.
Okay.
Okay? There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so now
Better than snow, not near as dusty.
Is your bud going down on that one you just placed on it?
It dang sure is.
You see, I didn't get my glasses on. I'm like, wait a minute. Sorry.
I'm glad you caught it.
I was asking, I said, isn't that bud? I put my glasses on. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Glad you caught it.
Well, it wasn't because I had to put them specs on.
As you're out in the middle of the field, this stuff never happens.
That just gives you confirmation your students are paying attention.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Tell them I'd done that on purpose to see if y'all were paying attention. That's how you clean that up.
I can't see from here.
That's why you see I had to lay up, put them specs on
Okay.
to see what direction they were going.
It's going right now.
All right.
4 eyes better than 2.
I know that's right. I guess we had more than 4 because I had to put my specs on. Wait a minute, this don't look right.
Where's your husband?
He's at home suffering sinuses.
Uh-oh. Might have to be the loudest one.
Yeah, we have to take his slack.
So Truman, what's the ideal length for the graft wood?
It can be 3 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches. I like somewhere around 4 to 6 inches. The thing is, you want to make sure you got 2 buds or more. And I've got 3 on this one.
Now, you had said earlier at the beginning, you said that you liked them, 6 to 8 inches, or
Pecan.
some do 10 inches.
Pecan, yes.
Yeah, but some do 8 to 10 inches. Now, would you can take one of those if they have plenty of buds, you cut it in half.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You bet.
I was trying to hold up my concept.
My old hands are so big, I have a difficulty of wrapping and going on.
I would think 4 hands would
Yeah.
be better than and had it do it by yourself.
I would think so until you actually learn how to do it very well. Then, in mine, I know I couldn't even handle the knife.
Yeah, I may just grab them and cut one of them and show him. Because I tell you what, after I know what that machine does right there and seeing what he's doing, man, I'm going to be able to go to town now that I know what I'm doing. Because we cut with them, it's just we couldn't figure out what to do with the 2 ends and when you cut it.
So with the grass wood that you're putting on now, because it was not dormant when you cut it, there's a chance that it's not going to take.
Right,
Okay.
right. Some of them may take, but I would doubt seriously that all of them take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to be attacking our percent.
Okay. So that's the tongue and whip. Okay, so where do we go now?
Do you want to show them the bud graft?
Sure.
Couldn't find that little sucker.
There it is.
There it is.
What variety was that from? Do we remember?
So that was from the first one.
Yeah.
I think it
Right.
is,
Okay.
which is the Gala.
Gala. Okay. All right, so we don't want to go to Gala. There's a granny. What is this? Fuji. Okay, so we can go Fuji.
There's a short, there's short ones, I was thinking.
Granny Smith, but I don't know what these others.
This is Fuji. That's your
Gala.
Gala, Granny.
I was talking about what you have put on.
Oh, okay.
So that I can keep that in mind.
Oh, he's just done the Fuji's and the.
Granny's.
Yeah, I haven't done these yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're gonna try to do a bud here, and what I'm gonna try to do, I'm gonna put this bud down here, so you'll have a limb coming out that will be whatever that one is. And then if you want to come up here, you can graft something else. If you want to whack this off right here, you can graft something else. If that wood, 2 or 3 years down the road, if you don't like one of these varieties that you got, and you let that wood get up about like this, you can come in here and you can whack right here. And you put a graft here, one there and one here. Or whatever varieties you want.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Go without
Okay, so let's see if we can do this.
So when you're selecting buds to graft that onto, what are you using as your selection process?
I'm just looking, I want one that hadn't popped. But generally if it has popped, it will still work.
Okay.
But I would prefer that it has not.
All right, so you want swelling but not
Yeah.
popped yet.
Mm-hmm. And let's see. I can see where I got that one from.
I think you used a piece on one of the other trees.
You did, and I want to say it was off of the not the Gala, but did we do the Fuji already? I mean, we did something with it.
No.
It's either the Gala down here on the very end on your left, or it came off of the one in the middle.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I don't know what this is though. .gum. It's got to be a Gala.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I'm going to do another bud, and I'm going to get this bud right here because it hadn't popped. Okay. It hadn't leafed out, right. I budded out.
So swelling, so you know it's going to, but not yet done it. Yes.
on my cheek just a minute. What are you doing now?
There's the bud. Okay. Okay.
There's at least one country. Yeah, because we keep finding the birds. We haven't found a tree yet.
Is there going to be a horticulture field day over at Oak?
Having trouble seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Got it going up.
We might get away with this time. I can't see that stuff.
Too long. Okay.
So what's the ideal time of year to do a bed graft? Right now?
We can do it now through about June. Yeah. When I was in Freestone County and worked with peach growers over there, they generally didn't do them until May or June.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So would that be good for like one of these like smaller trees, like the ring fence to do that?
Yeah, you can even do it on bigger trees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Only thing
But
about
yes, if you have fewer limbs to work with, you know, the bed graft's another option for you.
the only thing about that is if your limb comes straight off, if it has a trunk, then you have a problem with pruning, would you? You can, you know, some of them.
But basically,
I had some that just go straight in.
So you're leaving a little hole.
Leaving that bud.
So you're not covering balls just around it.
Now, let me ask you on pear trees. You know how the older pear trees start making the Bradford pears, you know, the thorns and, can I take one of the old adult and graft onto the Bradford and actually get fruit from it?
You can.
Do you not suggest it?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay, the reason I asked, I have some pear trees that have been there, my goodness, I couldn't even ever begin to tell you, but they do have the knockoffs. But I'm losing my older trees, and they're beautiful producing trees, so I want to try to take some of it and put on, with it being an offspring, would it matter? You see, I've got my old tree, yeah, and
No.
it's just coming off the roots, which I know that. But my old trees die, I mean, it's still producing it on now, but I know it's in due time going to fizzle out, yeah, I'm losing it.
and the only thing about the older tree is to really, to have good wood to make your signs with. It needs to be more juvenile tissue, that's why there's the side one,
Right.
Right.
So wherever there's a sprout coming off, you know, it's not a root sprout, but I mean,
Yeah.
inside wherever you have it.
Yeah, it still
you could
has,
use it.
yeah, it still has some, it's still making some that we could still get grass off of it being small enough. But I know we've been there over 20 years, and when I was growing up, Mom and Dad's, those trees were there, so I know they've got to be, well, 40s or 50s or whatever. They're old trees, but they're dying out. I mean, you know, you could see in the cavity, they're starting to get hollow and all that.
Sure.
But
So did you leave the center of that uncovered?
Yeah.
You left the bud part uncovered?
Yeah. But I have seen people cover that bud, and that bud just come right on out.
Okay.
So I
And
don't
you
know.
would leave it like that, you would put a plastic bag over it,
No.
something like that, okay.
And you don't even have to use glue.
don't do it again.
Why don't you sit back there, sweetie?
When do you take the foil and all that stuff off?
6 to 8 months.
6 to 8 months.
Mm-hmm. Supposed to stay on there. It's not wanting to.
Now, is that just for the bud part, or is that on any of it 6 to 8 months?
That's on anything that you've grafted. About 6 to 8 months, you can take all that off.
Okay.
And what you may have to do, some of these will grow off really fast. Get out there like that in 2 or 3 months, 3 or 4 or 5 months. And what you may have to do is put a guard there to keep them from blowing out. Something to, like if this is one of them here, and it's more or less coming out like this instead of up like that, or even if it's going up like that, you may have to tie something around here to go up with this to keep it from blowing out.
What do you mean when you say blowing out?
Getting too heavy and falling out of the tree, or wind.
Okay.
So you would tie it to your
Yeah.
branches,
Uh-huh.
kind of support it.
Right.
Like a splint for string.
That's exactly right.
Except you would have to be very mindful of that, because if you forget about that, the splint itself would damage the rest of the tree. Like, you know, your measures to save your graft could damage the rest of the tree. If you don't, you've got to be mindful of it and take it off.
Right.
So at what point is the graft like good? It's taken. It doesn't need
2 to 3 weeks, you ought to know.
Okay. And then, but then you want to leave that on for 6 to 8 months and
Yeah.
possibly have the splint or something. So then down like a
Right.
year afterward, like at what point
Yeah, probably.
is it like really you're
Yeah.
not worried about it blowing out? You're not worried about anything.